Hello there. Today we're going to be doing another ink review. This time Akkerman Orange Boven. And I don't know, maybe you can see that a bit better like that. Maybe not, but I like the way that the magnifier does the shows things like the color. This ink is a bright orange ink, and we're gonna kind of go over it and look at it a bit. The pen that I'm using is a Schaefer Viewpoint. It's got a 1.0 or 1 millimeter nib, stub nib. Once again, and the papers that are used were Tomoe River, however you pronounce that, Georgia Pacific's Premium Laser and Inkjet, and it's a 24 pound, and just a standard composition notebook. This ink is a really bright orange ink, but it's not so bright and light that you can't read it. It's got good legibility. There's it's light without being it's bright without being light. There's a darkness to it that makes it clearly legible. It's just a beautiful orange. If you like bright inks, then you'll love this ink. I love bright inks, and I love this. And this stub nib, it's fairly wet. I adjusted the tines and I polished the nib as much as I could on lapping film. And so it's not a particularly dry nib. It's fairly wet, but I'm going to review here. I have notes that I made for a written review that I did on a couple of the forums. And if you look on the copy paper, it took about less than 15 seconds for this ink to dry. Okay, on Tomoe River, it was pretty much the same. On the copy paper, or I'm sorry, the composition notebook paper, you'll see that it took less than 5 minutes or 5 seconds. And you look, one of the things that I like about these different papers is if you look at the paper, you can see a huge difference. I don't know if you can see it as well on this camera, but the Tomoe River, which doesn't have a lot of absorptive qualities to it, this line is almost a medium nib line to me, like a standard vintage Schaefer medium line. When you look on the 24 pound copy, you see a lot more line variation, that kind of deal. And then when you go to the composition notebook, you can see that this paper just sucked the living daylights up. I mean, it sucked this ink up like crazy. You've got a lot of feathering. It got really big and fat. It destroyed the difference between like that and that. Once it began to, I mean, it just destroyed that difference in line variation that the stub has going for it. But now, one of the things that I like about this ink is it's not particularly wet. The nib on this pen, like I said, I doctored it up, and it's fairly wet. But if you look on the Tomoe River, the only bleed through that I got was some bleed right here where I used a little thick scribbly line to test how wet the ink was. It's the same on that copy paper. You know, I got some splotches here that got some bleed through. That's heavy application. What I did is I messed up and laid this little splotch that I did of it on, and of course it bled through and bled onto the paper. So there was a lot of ink there. Before that happened, when you looked at it, the only bleed through I had was, again, where the little scribbly, thick scribbly lines are, where I tested how dry or how wet the ink is. If you look at the composition paper, this composition paper, there's some bleed and there's some bleed. Okay, there's some show through from the other side, but it's not bleed. It's shadowing, or whatever you want to call it. I know there's a term for it, but I can't remember. But anyway, I mean, it didn't even bleed very much through this cheap composition paper. So, in my opinion, it's not a very wet ink. Also, it's not permanent. It's not waterproof. If you put water on this, and I misplaced my water, so well, I think I threw it away. Let me go and try to grab it real quick, and I'll be right back. You'll just have to bear with me. Well, I can't find it now, so let's take this paper. I got my sink right here. If you look, that's not particularly water resistant. I mean, you can see the line, but if you continue to rub, you'll see that it begins to disappear. So this paper is not, or this ink is not by any means what I would consider a waterproof ink. And truthfully, if you look at this ink, just taking a look at this ink, look how clear it is. That's not something that I would expect from this type of ink. But and you can see I got some water here as well, and it's trying to go away. But now back to the name of the ink, Orange Boven, and I'm pronouncing that halfway right anyway, I hope. It means orange above, and it was supposedly, from the information that I can find on the internet, that this was developed by Akkerman to celebrate their 100th anniversary. And Orange Boven, or Orange Above, is a Dutch folk song about the bond between the Dutch people and the Dutch royal family. And it really fits that. It's got a really bright celebratory look to it. Just a beautiful, bright, happy color. And if I were Dutch royalty, I would really be happy to have my name associated with this ink, and particularly to have this ink associated with the way that my people would think of me and my family. So it's just a beautiful, bright orange ink. And if you like bright orange ink, you know, if you want something that's happy and clean, this is a fantastic ink for that. So, you know, hopefully this has been helpful. And if you You can get this ink at Anderson Pen. I think they're out right now. Hopefully they'll come back in stock. There are a couple of other places on the internet if you search, and it's 28 or 29 bucks for a 60 milliliter bottle. And the bottle has a unique inkwell that has like a marble in it, and it shuts off. It functions so that you can get a really nice feel in your pen, like using an inkwell. And just that's also from what I've read. As you know, I have a sample of it, so I don't have experience with that, but it sounds like a really neat idea, and pretty classy too. Alright, God bless, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.